get rid of me while I tell you all the things that no one probably tells you about having a nose job in Turkey. Now, I had my nose job in Istanbul, and I want to say I had it at the end of January this year, so it's been a good few months since I've had her done. And I would say that it is healed very, very well so far, and I feel like I was one of the really lucky ones that I did not have one bit of swelling, one bit of bruising. Actually, said that I had a tiny bit of swelling there, a little bit like Avatar, but other than that, I had absolutely nothing, and I wholeheartedly put that down to the surgeon that I had. So it's a little bit weird when you first look at getting any sort of surgery done in Turkey, because you kind of have to communicate with the surgeons, with the clinics via WhatsApp, which is fine if you're having like a nose job or a lip lift or anything like that. But if you're having something like breast augmentation, it can be a bit weird when they ask for photos. I had that when I had my boobs done a couple of years ago. I went with the same company and they were fantastic. But I remember when they first said, oh, could you send us some photos of your boobs front on? And I was in a cafe in Amsterdam. And I remember I stood there and I was like, this feels really wrong. This doesn't feel right. But for them, it is completely normal. That's how you communicate. Now, the company that I went with for both my breast augmentation and my nose job was Maya Medical in Istanbul. Now, that's not to be confused with Maya in London. They're completely different companies. I went to Maya Medical in Istanbul and they were utterly fantastic. It's a bit weird when you go out there because you think that everyone's going to look at you weird if you've got a brace on your face, anything like that. Nobody bats an eyelid. Like walking through Istanbul town, nobody bats an eyelid. Like if you've had a BBL, you wouldn't be out walking if you've had a BBL. But if you've got straps on your chest, if you've got a bandage on your head from having a hair transplant, nobody bats an eyelid. It's like everyone's so used to it there. My bit of advice I'd say is don't pack a lot of stuff to go with because some people's experience is different than others. I'm quite fortunate that the day after I had my surgery done, I was literally at the hospital. I went out shopping with my mum. Let me see if I can find a photo of what I actually looked like the day after my surgery. This was literally me the day after my surgery. I was absolutely fine. I had the tiniest little bit of swelling just there, but other than that, I had nothing. I was so lucky. So realistically, like me and mum had loads of time to fill because we were like, what do we do now? Like we thought I was gonna have like swollen black eyes. I wasn't gonna be able to do anything, but we were like, what do we do now? So we just went shopping each day. There wasn't really we didn't really plan for this. I would say if you do end up worrying about like bruising and swelling, I would say avoid any sort of caffeine or alcohol like 2 weeks before your surgery. It does say this in like your pre-op notes, so make sure you kind of heed that because caffeine can make you swell and bruise a lot. So just bear that in mind. Also alcohol, avoid like salty foods, that sort of stuff. I would also advise taking loads and loads of arnica before your treatment and after, if they advise after. Obviously double check that with them, and also eat and drink loads of pineapple because the enzymes in pineapple are fantastic for bruising and swelling. Now after your surgery, you're going to feel a little bit weird because they have to put these kind of like stents in your nose, which feel like they're kind of like tampons, but they feel like, you know, the rubbery chicken fillets that you get that go like in your bra sometimes. They're basically those, but they're sewn into your skin and they're basically used as a stent to stop your nostrils from collapsing. So you cannot breathe out your nose for like a week, like physically can't. There's no way you can do it. They give you like a flush, you know, the things that you go and you try and flush your nose. You have to do that a couple of times a day just to kind of help with any dead blood that's in there, like dried up blood. And that itself is really difficult to do, but not breathing out your nose, like don't get me wrong, I couldn't breathe out my nose before because of the problems I had with it, but this was like a whole new level of you must be a mouth breather. And because you are breathing solely out your mouth, you will have the driest mouth in the world. Like I remember I was waking up like 6, 7, 8 times a night trying to like guzzle water because my tongue was like so dry. It was like dry mud. You could like tap it and it would make a noise. It was so dry. I had such a sore throat. I'd say that's the only issue I had post-treatment was when I had the stents in, is that my throat was really dry. That's the only thing that I really struggled with. Also, if you sneeze, be prepared that your soul will literally leave your body. I personally found that the aftercare in Istanbul was fantastic. I mean, Maya, they have nurses that work at the hotels that look after you. Our lovely nurse, Hava, she took me out for a bouncy blow dry, like took us out for a coffee. The standard of care there is impeccable. Like obviously make sure you do your research. That's why I recommend Maya so much because they were fab. But do your research. But the standard of care, like we got put in a 5-star Hilton hotel. The transfers are lovely. And the Hilton hotel does shuttles to town every day, like every half an hour. I'd say just be prepared, bring things to do, like make sure you've downloaded stuff on Netflix, on Amazon Prime, because there might not be a lot to watch out there, and I know Netflix is slightly different out in Turkey. One thing I would say is when you have your cast taken off, be prepared to actually really hate your nose at first. And it's not something I kind of talk about a lot, but when I first had my nose done, I really didn't like it. I didn't, because obviously it's the shock. You're so used to seeing your nose a certain way, for me, like 23 for 24 years, that when the cast does come off, obviously it is a big adjustment, especially if you have been swollen, you have been bruised. It is a really big adjustment. And I looked at mine and it was so small, it was so upturned. And I really did, at first I wasn't keen on it, and I remember I went back, so I had a smile on my face and I was like, I love it, but deep down I was like, oh my god, like this is a big change. And I remember I got back in the car to go back to the hotel after, and when they take those stents out, best believe you can smell colour, like your breathing is like mint. And I got back in the car and my mum was like, are you okay? And I just burst into tears, and I remember I rang Ollie and he started laughing down the phone, and all I remember was him going a hee hee down the phone, because I looked like Michael Jackson, and I just burst into tears. And it wasn't until the nurse came in and she was like, Regan, like it's exactly how you would say to clients, like with filler, we have to lift it so much because as it heals, gravity pulls it down. And that, the minute she said that, I like snapped out of it and was like, oh my god, of course, like of course. And that's one thing, like your nose doesn't fully heal for months, absolutely months. So my nose looks so different now than it probably did. If you look back at my videos from January, my nose looks so different, and it is a lot of adjusting to, especially when you have to wear like a stent after, you have to wear a nostril retainer, which no one told me about. A nostril retainer looks like, you know those plugs that a swimmer puts up their nose, like 2 bits of penne pasta? That is the most excruciating thing you will ever do, having to wear those. I had to wear mine for 3 months, and literally I'd say that was really painful, having to put that in and out. And then also taping, because obviously if you work, like if you have any like things to go to, you have to have tape on your nose, because theoretically like your nose has been completely broken and like readjusted. So I remember I went to an event with some of my friends a couple of weeks after I had my nose done, and I went out and I took the tapes off my nose because I thought, oh, I can't go out, like it's an event, like I've got to take my nose tape off. And I remember someone came up to me and pinched my nose, and I felt someone else knock me, and I was so paranoid that I was actually like, I need to go. Like it actually really hurt. It really hurt. And I was like, okay, no, this is too much. So just be prepared that you do need to wear the tapes, you do need to wear the stents, because your nostrils may collapse and your nose may not sit properly, and your nose is going to go down at different rates. So I had one period where I was like, oh my god, this nostril looks different to that nostril, and you do get paranoid, but it does just all level out eventually. All in all, it is a really good experience, and I would recommend it to anyone. I think that, don't get me wrong, Turkey, that sort of places do get a really bad rep when it comes to cosmetic surgery, and absolutely there probably are places that aren't that great, but do your research. And it's the same for any sort of aesthetic treatments. The 3 things you need to be looking out for: are you doing this for the right reasons? Are you well educated and informed in what you're having done? And are you putting yourself in any financial debt doing it? The minute one of those 3 things even slightly drops, don't do it. You shouldn't be doing it. But from me and my experience, mine was fantastic, and I found that getting a nose job was the best thing that I ever done. I'll see if I can attach some before and afters on here, and I'll just show you how amazing it was. So this was the underneath of my nose before and straight after I had the cast taken off. Don't know, my skin is glowing in that second one, but can you just see how much straighter that is already? Like the results were incredible. And this is what I mean about them having to really lift it. So my nose doesn't look like this now, clearly, but when they do lift it during surgery, they have to really give it a kind of piggy lift, because as it heals, gravity does pull it down. But I never realised how bulbous the tip of my nose was until I looked at these photos. Like, I feel like it just made my face so much more symmetrical. Like, it just put everything in kind of line with each other. I absolutely loved it. So my top tips when it comes to getting a rhinoplasty in Istanbul is, yes, it is cheaper, but make sure you're doing your research on where you're going. Make sure they have good reviews, and maybe you know someone who's been there, because so you can get that kind of word of mouth, because it is very easy to fake reviews online. So maybe if you know someone who's been there, who's had a good experience, that always is a bonus. Be prepared to take things to entertain you, because you may be stuck in your hotel room if you do have severe bruising and swelling, or actually take a little bit of money with you because you may have like nothing to do. So you may want to go out shopping, you may want to go see all the things that Istanbul has to offer, or wherever you're going. Be prepared to breathe out your mouth. It's going to be horrible. Maybe take some throat lozenges, take some kind of like numbing throat spray, that sort of thing. Stock up on some melatonin while you're there, because sleep may be a little bit difficult, because you have to sleep on your back, which I found really difficult because I'm a face sleeper, which I couldn't for a while, which was really difficult. And most importantly, just be safe while you're doing it. Do your research, as I said before, and get that new nose. Just get it.